I still think AI has a very definite look. I don't really feel threatened by it. I was there when Illustrator and Photoshop were first started, and it feels like that when people are like, oh, anyone's going to be able to come in Illustrator now. But it still takes a certain amount of skill and taste and sort of specific knowledge to become good at those things. Yeah, it's just going to be another great tool that people can use. I'm interested to see where it goes.
Today I'm out here in sunny Brunswick, which is in the north of Melbourne, and I'm actually just around the corner from the studio of Beci Orpin. Now, Beci is a world-renowned designer and illustrator. She's much loved here in Melbourne and around the world, and if you don't think you've seen her work, chances are you actually probably have. It's very playful, it's very bold, huge use of color, and it's distinctly Beci Orpin. How do you bring a personal style into brand work and commercial work? We're going to ask all of those questions. We're going to find out from Beci herself, so let's go and chat.
When I started, it was before the internet really, or when the internet was just starting. So it wasn't like you had the amount of information or contact with people that you can achieve now. Like there was no social media, but there was definitely, I call it a slow snowball because, locally I got one job with one label and then someone else saw that and then I got 2 jobs with another label outside that. And then it was kind of that slow ball. Slow ball is a great term. Yeah, and then, the same thing started to happen to overseas. So I got one job with a skateboard company in New York, but it was a really slow effect. But potentially if, I was a young designer now, that would be a completely different process, much faster. Things do move really fast now. Imposter syndrome has always been there, still there, especially now if I move into, I've got 2 shows coming up in museums, and so then I'm like, oh my God, why have I got these shows? That doesn't make any sense to me. But my biggest advice with imposter syndrome would be just do the work. Just keep going, just do the work. And I feel it generally the whole way through a project, and then it's the end when that project is finished that I'm like, oh, it was good. It turned out good. Those people who had faith in me, they actually knew what they were doing. And you actually know what you're doing too. So for me, it's just doing the work. Reflection can be really good for that, like looking back on works that you've done and achieved that you thought were really hard at the time. That can be really good, being like, oh look, I was able to achieve this, but it never goes away, sorry. Your own style does take some time to develop, so make sure you stay true to it. Like someone can work in their own style for 5 years, even now, and not be recognized, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, look at all this great work that people have done. So I'd just say staying true to yourself or to your style and really investing in that. And maybe you'll have to be flexible. Like I've had to be so flexible. I've done so much work where people wouldn't know it was me. I would say, at least 65% of my work, people wouldn't know it was me until they know it's me. And then they're like, oh, I can see the connection. So I'd say flexibility is really important within your style. If you have flexibility, then you're more likely to get your work in front of more people. Especially initially, I said yes to so many things. I'm a big yes person. I wasn't very discerning at all. But definitely there's time to say no. And I guess the older I get, the better I am at working out what's going to be good and what's going to be bad. Often now I know when a job's I'm not suitable for this job, but I think I know other people who are. And that's definitely, I was talking about how I'm not a graphic designer. So when I get a job and they're like, can you do this book? Or I'm like, no, I cannot. That's outside my skill set. I only know that because I said yes to things previously. So that, budget can sometimes, when the budget doesn't match the job, but sometimes you do it because it's a great opportunity. And sometimes you just know it's just off, and you've got to trust that instinct. And I definitely think trusting your gut is a big part. I know it's a big cliche these days to say that, but actually trusting your gut on a specific client or on something you're just like, oh, this just feels off, then I think it's worthwhile saying no. So for my creative process, the first thing that I would do is really go quite in depth into the brief. Like the brief is obviously the most important part, and try and get as much out of the brief as I can and really dilute that down into like writing in my sketchbook, like the key points. I'm not a pencils person. I never do pencils. I go straight to colour and I go straight to computer generally. Definitely always do a colour palette for each job. Even my own exhibitions, every job I do a colour palette, and it's one of the first things that I do. Sometimes I'll do a mood board and send it to the client and be like, look, is this heading in the right direction? So then I'll go through first sketches or first concepts, and that will generally be quite a lot, like between 2 and 5 concepts, which I'll then show the client. I'm all about having lots of options for the client. To me, that just works better. And always there's one that stands out and generally that's the one, but I wouldn't get to that point without all those options. So I definitely like to show all the options, and also because sometimes, you know, some of option B and some of option A, and that's really important. And then just keep refining that idea until it's finished art. Usually 2 or 3 rounds is what I do, but it depends on the job. I actually studied textile design, which was really good because it gave me that sort of craft background, but also colour skills, also drawing, and also design. So I think it was actually the textile design which brought together all these things to what I am now, whatever that is. It's pretty wild. I remember my brother-in-law's girlfriend, and I remember her coming in and saying, oh, my 2 friends are starting this magazine. It's called Frankie. I think it's going to be really good. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then I think I was in the second issue, and yeah, they were just, I think they really tapped into a market that was quite big, that nobody knew was quite big. They really tapped into sort of the maker thing, the kind of craft thing, that sort of indie, which was actually big. And yeah, they were really defining in what they did and really provided a platform for a lot of people such as myself, who was a perfect platform for me and for my audience at the time. Yeah, it was such a great experience. The most successful collaborations are when it works like well for both people. Like when my first book came out, Find and Keep, and that was in 2011 or 12, I got asked to do a homewares collaboration with Urban Outfitters in the US. The art director was really amazing. That was huge for me. Like that was kind of Urban Outfitters like heyday, because the art director was so great. Pretty much all of my collaborations that I've worked on I've been really happy with. I did one with Maya last year, which was really fun. That was a really interesting experience because Maya's such a big commercial level. So the way that had to work was completely different to any other collaboration, which was, you know, meant that it was quite directed by them to a certain point, which was great because I love boundaries. Yeah. He's a really amazing artist. That makes all these terrible noises. I really want to design a playground. I've become quite close. I've been shortlisted a few times for playgrounds. I had one that was actually happening and then got shut down by COVID, which was really, because it was in a shopping centre. That playground and definitely that interactive, real life, 3D illustration forms, but people can actually operate with, you know, and interact with is definitely something that I'd really like to do, especially now with AI. Which has been a really interesting kind of development in the illustration and design world. So people are going to be craving tactile objects, and that's something that I'm kind of, yeah, I've always been interested in. So Book of Girls is a publication I self-published this year. I guess I've always kept sketchbooks from before uni, like high school. I've always kept sketchbooks, and that practice has always been really important to me. And it kind of represents this kind of archive of my work, like what I was drawing at the time, what I was into, because, you know, I stick stuff in them. It's not just drawing. It's like, there's ones from just traveling. Yeah, I'm really happy for people to see it. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm really happy. Sketchbooks are not something I usually show people, so I think it's really cool. There's so much in there which may or may not make sense to anybody else, but I really love it. So, yeah. My name's Beci Orpin. I'm not sure usually how to describe what I do, so I just call myself a creative practitioner.